The first presentation, as Michelle said, we're going to kind of go over anxiety and kind of just do a brief overview of the aspects that kind of surround it. So just kind of a quick agenda as far as the things we're going to cover. First, we're going to kind of go through defining anxiety and reviewing the symptoms and experiences that accompany it. And then we can kind of discuss those real life situations that provoke those symptoms. And then lastly, we'll kind of discuss ways to combat that anxiety and explore the resources that we have in our community. And then as she mentioned, we can do questions at the end. So kind of starting off, anxiety is an emotion that is characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes such as increased heart rate and blood pressure. At times, anxiety can be difficult to define or detect due to the various ways it can be experienced by each and every individual. We're actually going to play a video that kind of explores these differences and how anxiety may affect different people. And it kind of touches on the different symptoms, longevity, and feelings that come with the emotion. So I'll go ahead and get that started.
We all feel anxious in difficult or threatening situations.
Sorry about that.
It's a feeling of worry or fear that usually stops once the situation is over. Anxiety becomes a problem when the feelings are too strong or carry on long after you need them. With anxiety, you worry all the time and find it impossible to concentrate. You might feel tired and irritable and struggle to sleep. When anxiety goes on for a while, it's easy to feel depressed. Anxiety has many physical symptoms too. These include sweating, breathlessness, feeling sick, and an increased heart rate. It's easy to think these are signs of a physical illness, which can make anxiety even worse. Anxiety takes three main forms, and most people experience more than one of them. Generalized anxiety disorder is where you experience symptoms of anxiety most of the time. Panic attacks are sudden, unpredictable attacks of anxiety in situations you find difficult. They can also come on out of the blue. The feelings come on suddenly and reach a peak in about 10 minutes. A phobia is a fear of something that's not really dangerous. The nearer you get to that thing, the more anxious you feel, so you stay away. One example is acrophobia, which is a fear of being in public spaces that might be difficult to leave. Luckily, there are steps you can take to overcome your anxiety. If your anxiety comes from a recent problem, it can help to talk with a good listener who you trust and respect. Self-help groups are a great place to talk and share different ways of coping with people who understand what you're going through. There are specific ways of relaxing to help control your anxiety. You can learn them through groups, from professionals, or from self-help books. You might be too worried to seek help for anxiety in case people think that you're mad. They won't. Anxiety is a common problem, and it's much better to get help than suffer in silence. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help you understand how your thinking habits can make anxiety worse or even cause it. You can practice CBT in groups or individually. You can even give yourself CBT through computer programs and self-help books. Medication can also play a part in the treatment of anxiety or phobias. Whatever you decide, remember anxiety is very common. Lots of people have overcome it, and so will you. To find out more about anxiety, visit the Royal College of Psychiatrists website.
So kind of how the video touched on, many people can experience these feelings of anxiety through our lives in different ways. Next, I'm going to go through the various events that can bring anxiety in our everyday lives. Some examples of these situations include aging, losing loved ones, COVID-19, and loneliness.
Okay, so many view aging as a beautiful process that shows a natural gaining of knowledge and wisdom. Numerous people make jokes about growing older because of the snap, crackles, and pops going on with their bodies. And while aging is all of these things, it can be relatively unpleasant to go through all of these changes. There are 5 main stages of life: self-sufficiency, interdependence, dependence, crisis management, and end of life. Moving between self-sufficiency into interdependence and dependence feels threatening to a lot of older adults because it makes them realize that they can no longer do certain things like they did when they were completely independent. The move from stage to stage is typically caused by cognitive, physical, and/or emotional decline. These struggles can be seen in memory, attention, anger outbursts, depression, bladder urinary control, and the cardiovascular system. The 5th and final stage, end of life, focuses on the idea of addressing death and that what the last few days will look like, whether it's home health aides, hospice, or nursing home. This stage can cause great anxiety in many older adults because it pushes them to address their own deaths as well as the deaths of their loved ones. Death is a hard and unfortunately unavoidable thing in life. Losing a loved one is always difficult and can cause you to feel numerous different emotions such as anger, sadness, confusion, denial, and shock. It is particularly difficult for older adults because many of the people they are losing, whether it be a spouse, a friend, or family member, are also losing a lifetime of shared experiences. So to think about losing a loved one can cause older adults to worry about others' safety and well-being as well as their own, causing them to be overwhelmed by the thought of death. Death anxiety, which is the fear of and anxiety related to the anticipation and awareness of death, dying, and non-existence, is a common phenomenon in a lot of societies, but is not well understood among the older adults due to most research focusing on younger adults. There was a 2002 study that showed that the fear of death declines over the years of middle adulthood. However, it does not continue to decline in old age. Rather, death anxiety in older adults is often more overt as compared to younger adults who are more covert about their fear of death. While many older adults figure out a way to cope and accept the idea of death, some through religion or mindfulness, the fear of death is a common stressor for many older adults, which has been amplified through recent events of COVID-19 pandemic in the United States.
COVID-19 has objectively taken over the world in the latest 7 to 8 months now. Specifically, coronaviruses are a type of virus. Coronaviruses are not new in science or environment, but are new to affecting our population in drastic measures. Coronaviruses may cause diseases such as the respiratory disease seen in COVID-19. The actual newly identified COVID strain, SARS-CoV-2, is the official name for the virus associated with COVID-19, and the respiratory-related diagnosis happens to be the result. Symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. To name a few, that may be fever, chills, coughing, shortness of breath is the really big high-end one, and fatigue. You can compare it to the flu, but it has its own diagnoses. The older population is more susceptible to getting COVID. As you can see, star number 1 will designate the prevalence in the United States right now, how many cases we have. The second star, as you can see to the right, shows the appearance of deaths that are prevalent in the United States. And then the third star, you can see, I've highlighted Illinois to heighten the fact that this is right in our backyard. And although Iowa doesn't make the top of this specific list, the fact that a lot of students from the University of Iowa are from Illinois and are in the space of a lot of residents just from Iowa City in general puts a great effect on the older population. It is important to understand the difference between being lonely and the state of experiencing loneliness. One can be alone and be in full bliss, yet in a room full of people, feel and experience the feeling of being or having loneliness. Loneliness is a subjective experience. With COVID-19 affecting the world so drastically, the older population defaults to having to experience anxiety, fear, and most importantly, loneliness. Most have had drastic changes in their lives in order to protect the health and the health of themselves and the health of loved ones. 2 out of 5 Americans report they sometimes feel their social relationships are not meaningful. 1/5 of Americans report lonely or feeling lonely or being socially isolated.
there's actually a name for what is going on specifically with COVID-19 in the past several months, called the Loneliness Epidemic, where approximately a fourth of the community dwelling older adults are considered to be socially isolated, 43% of them reporting feeling lonely. So this is a huge statistic, one that needs to be tackled because of the effect that it's having on people's lives. It's important to combat the feelings of social isolation. It produces feelings of disengagement and unimportance, something that can just be adjusted respectively.
Now we are going to talk about some activities that you can take part in helping alleviate the feelings of anxiety without putting yourself at risk during the pandemic. All of you are connected with Zoom, but if you have some friends who are not, but they have an internet connection, they can go on to the AARP website and search Zoom access, and it'll walk them right through the process. It's free, and as long as you keep your chat sessions to 40 minutes or less, it's all free. And it's a great way to keep together with families and friends without risking each other's health. Zoom can also be used to connect with your healthcare providers. Many medical and mental health providers in the Iowa City area offer telehealth as an option. Dr. Joanna Romero Cataya from Virtue Medicine in Iowa City offers an anxiety group called Linking Up, Social Connections During COVID. It is a 6-week online group that includes meditation, creative exercises, and in the moment activities. Studies have shown being around children help the elderly live longer. Time spent with children enhances mood, encourages physical activity, improves enjoyment of life, and provides opportunities to learn new things. As for the kids, it gives them insight into getting older, a patient ear to talk to, and an appreciation of a diverse community. Horace Mann in Iowa City is willing to connect with seniors through Zoom to offer fun activities for both the students and the seniors. Some of the activities that could be included having the students interview you, who you would first voted for, and why did you vote for that person, and how did it make you feel? They also are a very diverse population of students at Horace Mann. Interviewing each other about each other's culture would be a great way to learn about each other's heritage. Another way to connect with students would be through special interests or hobbies such as music, art, or gardening. You and the students could work on a project together that could be presented to their class via Zoom. Lastly, the Senior Center could help Horace Mann students with their reading skills by becoming a lunch buddy, where you and a student can virtually have lunch and read a favorite book together. Communication is an important skill, and this could be done by offering to be a pen pal. This would help the students improve their writing skills, but also give them and yourself and the students something to look forward to when the mail comes.
Okay, so physical movement has been proven to help a great many people deal with issues like depression and anxiety. In fact, regular exercise is one of the first lifestyle changes that many doctors will recommend when a patient is showing some of these symptoms. And physical exercise may help due to its taking your mind off of worries, you're becoming looser and less tense, and certain neurochemicals are released during exercise that can just make you feel good. So for example, serotonin, these chemicals are thought to be why people get runner's highs. And so depending on who you are and what sorts of anxieties you do have, different exercises may work better for you than others. So a few different examples of physical movement you could engage in are doing yoga, just getting outside and taking a walk, just other outdoor activities, going to a park, playing frisbee. Okay. So using some mindfulness techniques is our next suggestion for alleviating anxiety. I won't be going too in detail on the topic because one of the other presentations today is solely dedicated to the topic. So mindfulness is essentially the practice of actively bringing your attention to the present moment and current experiences. This can help you keep your mind off of worries that have no place in what is immediately going on with your life. So one example of a mindfulness technique is the 5 sense game, where you can find 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 you can hear, 2 to smell, and 1 to taste. Another example could be mindful journaling. This would be writing down everything that's bothering you and being able to put a name to these feelings and then just let it go. Listening to music is a good option for a lot of people. It helps them stay present and in the moment. And even though it might be kind of difficult with COVID, there are different virtual concerts and virtual art tours. You could see the Sistine Chapel virtually. There's different things like that available. And lastly, there's meditation. And we had a 3-minute quick video just to kind of show y'all what it's like.
Monday.com. Monday.com is a platform to track everything your team is working on. We use it.
A mindfulness meditation. During this meditation, we will focus on being mindful, finding that point where you are completely aware of the now. Breathe in through the nose to a count of 4 and out to the count of 6. Whatever thoughts come and go in your mind at this point, simply observe them as if from a distance. See them as coloured balloons, as separate from you, and let them go. Let them float away. You are present now. You are not controlled by your thoughts. You can acknowledge that they are simply that, thoughts. Be conscious of the beat of blood within you, of the rhythm of your breathing, the brush of clothing against your skin. Feel the surface on which you sit and how your body presses into it. Be aware of any scents that you can smell or colours you can see. Notice the detail in the sounds you are hearing. Feel the temperature of the space you are in. Spend some moments simply being aware of all that is within you and around you right now, in this very moment. This is what it is to be mindful.